The sun was setting over the endless Kansas plains when Lila Torres's old sedan sputtered, coughed, and died. She was 7 months pregnant, alone, and miles from the nearest town. The wind rattled the dry grass, and the only sound was her own anxious breathing. Lila pressed her hand to her belly, whispering, "It's okay, baby. We'll figure this out." She tried her phone. No signal. The highway was empty, the sky turning a bruised purple. Lila's mind raced with worry. She'd left Wichita that morning, running from a life that had grown too small, too suffocating. She was headed to her sister's house in Denver, hoping for a fresh start. Now, stranded and vulnerable, she wondered if she'd made a terrible mistake. As darkness crept in, headlights appeared on the horizon. Relief flooded Lila's chest. The truck slowed, then stopped behind her car. A tall, broad-shouldered man stepped out, wiping grease from his hands onto faded jeans. He wore a battered cap and a shirt with a name patch. Eli. His face was weathered, but his eyes were kind. "Evening, ma'am," he said, voice gentle. "Looks like you've got some trouble." Lila nodded, trying to hide her fear. "I'm pregnant. My car just died." Eli nodded, glancing at her belly, then at the car. "Let's take a look." He popped the hood, flashlight in hand, moving with quiet confidence. Lila watched, heart pounding, as he checked wires and hoses. After a few minutes, Eli straightened. "Fuel pump's shot. You're not going anywhere tonight." Lila's shoulders slumped. "Is there a tow truck? Or a motel nearby?" Eli shook his head. "Closest town's 20 miles, but I've got a garage just up the road. You can wait there while I fix it." Lila hesitated, weighing her options. The night was growing colder, and the baby kicked restlessly. She nodded. "Thank you." Eli helped her into his truck, careful and respectful. The cab smelled of oil and pine. They drove in silence, the headlights carving a path through the darkness. Lila studied Eli's hands, strong, scarred, but gentle as he shifted gears. She wondered about his story, why he was out here alone. The garage was a small, tidy building beside a weathered farmhouse. Eli led Lila inside, offering her a chair and a mug of tea. "You can rest here. I'll get started on your car." Lila sipped the tea, grateful for the warmth. She watched Eli work through the window, his silhouette framed by the glow of a single bulb. As the hours passed, Lila's fear faded, replaced by curiosity. She noticed photos on the wall, Eli as a young man, standing beside a woman and a little boy. A faded newspaper clipping caught her eye. "Local hero saves family from fire." Lila wondered what had happened to the family in the photos, and to the man who now worked alone in the night. Eli returned, wiping sweat from his brow. "Part stores closed till morning. You'll have to stay the night." Lila nodded, exhaustion washing over her. "Thank you, Eli. I don't know what I would have done." He smiled, a hint of sadness in his eyes. "We all need help sometimes." He showed her to a small guest room, clean but sparse. "If you need anything, just holler." Lila lay on the bed, listening to the wind and the distant hum of Eli's tools. She thought of her old life, the job she'd left, the boyfriend who'd vanished when she got pregnant, the mother who never understood. Tears slipped down her cheeks, but she felt strangely safe. In the morning, Lila woke to the smell of coffee and frying eggs. She found Eli in the kitchen, humming softly. "Hope you're hungry," he said, sliding a plate toward her. Lila smiled, her first real smile in days. "Thank you." They ate in companionable silence, the awkwardness of strangers replaced by something gentler. After breakfast, Eli drove into town for parts. Lila wandered the garage, drawn to the photos on the wall. She found a letter tucked behind one frame, addressed to Dad. The handwriting was childish, the words simple, "I miss you. Please come home." Lila's heart ached. She wondered what pain Eli carried, what loss had shaped his quiet kindness. When Eli returned, Lila asked about the photos. He hesitated, then sat beside her. "That's my son, Ben, and my wife, Marisol. Lost them in a fire 10 years ago. I was working late. Never forgave myself." His voice was rough, but his eyes were clear. "I help people on this road because I couldn't help them." Lila reached for his hand, her own trembling. "You helped me." Eli squeezed her hand gently. "Maybe that's enough, some days." They sat in silence, two strangers bound by loss and hope. By afternoon, Eli had fixed Lila's car. She packed her things, ready to leave. But something held her back. "Why do you live out here, Eli?" she asked. He shrugged. "It's quiet. Out here I can be useful. I can make up for the past, a little at a time." Lila nodded, understanding more than she could say. She pressed a slip of paper into his hand, her sister's address in Denver. "If you ever need a friend, come find me." Eli smiled, a real smile this time. "Safe travels, Lila, and take care of that little one." Lila drove away from Eli's garage with a full heart and a repaired car, but her mind kept circling back to the mechanic's quiet sorrow. The road stretched ahead, but she glanced in the rearview mirror more than once, watching the little farmhouse shrink into the Kansas horizon. She wondered if Eli would ever forgive himself, or if he'd always be haunted by the fire and the family he'd lost. The drive to Denver was long, but Lila felt changed. She thought about the kindness of a stranger, the way Eli had offered help without question or judgment. She realized how rare that was, how often people turned away from those in need. She promised herself she'd remember this lesson, especially as she prepared to become a mother. When Lila arrived at her sister's house, she was greeted with open arms. Maria fussed over her, making tea and asking 1,000 questions. Lila told her about the breakdown, about Eli, about the night in the garage. Maria listened, her eyes wide. "You were lucky," she said. "Most people wouldn't have stopped. Most people wouldn't have cared." Lila nodded, but she knew it was more than luck. It was a reminder that goodness could be found in the most unexpected places, and that everyone carried burdens unseen. She settled into her new life in Denver, found a job at a local library, and prepared for the baby's arrival. But she never forgot Eli, or the truth she'd found in the middle of nowhere. Months passed. Lila gave birth to a healthy baby girl whom she named Hope. The name felt right, a tribute to the journey that had brought her here, and to the mechanic who had shown her that hope could survive even the darkest nights. She sent Eli a letter, enclosing a photo of Hope and a note. "Thank you for saving us. You're part of our story now." Eli received the letter on a cold winter morning. He stared at the photo for a long time, tears slipping down his cheeks. For the first time in years, he felt something shift inside him. A small, stubborn spark of forgiveness. He wrote back, telling Lila about the garage, about the people he'd helped since she left, about the slow, painful process of healing. Their letters became a lifeline. Lila shared stories of Hope's first steps, her laughter, her stubbornness. Eli wrote about the travelers he'd rescued, the friendships he'd formed, the way the town had slowly begun to accept him again. They became family, bound not by blood, but by kindness and the courage to keep going. One spring, Lila invited Eli to visit Denver. He hesitated, afraid to leave the safety of his routine, but something in Hope's smile, so like her mother's, gave him the strength to try. He arrived with a bouquet of wildflowers and a shy smile. Maria welcomed him, and Hope toddled into his arms as if she'd known him forever. That weekend, Eli and Lila talked late into the night. They spoke of grief and forgiveness, of the ways people could hurt and heal each other. Eli confessed his guilt, his fear that he'd never be enough. Lila listened, her heart full of empathy. "You saved me, Eli. You saved Hope. That's enough. You're enough." Eli returned to Kansas with a lighter heart. He began to open up to the people in his town, volunteering at the fire department, mentoring young mechanics, sharing his story with those who needed hope. He realized that redemption wasn't about erasing the past, but about choosing to do good, one day at a time. Lila's life blossomed. She raised Hope with love and patience, teaching her the value of kindness and the strength found in vulnerability. She told her daughter about the night their car broke down, about the mechanic who had changed everything. Hope grew up believing that even in the darkest moments, there was always a way forward. As the years passed, Lila and Eli's friendship deepened. They spoke often, sometimes by phone, sometimes by letter. Hope grew into a bright, curious child who loved to tinker with anything mechanical. On her 5th birthday, Eli sent her a small toolbox with her name engraved on it. Lila smiled as Hope's eyes lit up, remembering the man who had once fixed more than just their car. Eli's life in Kansas changed too. The townspeople, once distant, began to see him differently. He was no longer just the quiet mechanic on the edge of town, but a neighbor who showed up when someone's tractor broke down, who fixed a school bus for free, who listened without judgment. The firehouse welcomed him back, and he found a new sense of belonging. One summer, Lila and Hope visited Eli. The reunion was joyful, filled with laughter and stories. Hope followed Eli everywhere, peppering him with questions about engines and spark plugs. Eli taught her how to change a tire, how to listen for the subtle sounds of a healthy engine. Lila watched them, her heart swelling with gratitude for the unexpected family they had become. But not everything was easy. Eli still struggled with guilt, especially on the anniversary of the fire. He visited the graves of Marisol and Ben, leaving wildflowers and whispered apologies. Lila joined him one year, standing quietly by his side. "They would be proud of you," she said softly. Eli nodded, tears in his eyes. "I hope so." Back in Denver, Lila faced her own challenges. Balancing work and motherhood was exhausting, and there were days when she felt overwhelmed. But she drew strength from Eli's example, from the memory of that night on the Kansas road. She volunteered at a local shelter, helping other women in crisis, offering the same kindness she had received. Hope thrived. She excelled in school, made friends easily, and dreamed of becoming an engineer. Lila encouraged her curiosity, never forgetting the lesson Eli had taught her, that everyone has a story, and that kindness can change the course of a life. On weekends, they worked on small projects together, building birdhouses and fixing old radios. One autumn, Eli called with news. He had been nominated for a Community Service Award, recognized for his work with the fire department and his mentorship of local youth. Lila and Hope traveled to Kansas for the ceremony. As Eli accepted the award, he spoke of second chances, of the power of forgiveness, and of the night a stranger had changed his life. "There are moments," Eli said, his voice steady, "when we are given the chance to do right, even if we've done wrong before. I'm grateful for that chance. And I'm grateful for the people who believed in me, even when I couldn't believe in myself. The audience rose in a standing ovation. Lila and Hope hugged him tightly, their hearts full. After the ceremony, the three of them sat on Eli's porch, watching the Kansas sky turn gold and pink. Hope leaned against Eli, her head on his shoulder. "Will you teach me how to fix cars when I'm older?" she asked. Eli smiled, his eyes shining. "I'd be honored, kiddo." Lila watched them, feeling a peace she hadn't known in years. She realized that family could be chosen, built from moments of trust and kindness. As winter approached, Lila faced a new challenge. The library where she worked was threatened with closure due to budget cuts. The thought of losing her job and the safe haven it provided for so many filled her with dread. She reached out to Eli, who listened quietly as she poured out her worries. "You taught me to keep going," she said, "but I don't know if I can fix this." Eli thought for a moment. Sometimes fixing things isn't about tools or parts. It's about people coming together. Inspired, Lila organized a community meeting. She shared her story, explaining how the library had changed her life and the lives of others. Neighbors, parents, and teachers rallied behind her. Eli drove to Denver to help, speaking at the city council meeting about the importance of second chances and safe spaces. The campaign to save the library gained momentum. Local businesses donated funds, volunteers offered their time, and the city council voted to keep the doors open. Lila was overwhelmed by the outpouring of support. She realized that the lessons she'd learned from Eli, resilience, kindness, and the courage to ask for help, had become the foundation of her own strength. Hope watched her mother and Eli with admiration. She saw how they faced challenges with determination and grace, how they lifted each other up. She began to understand that true bravery wasn't about never being afraid, but about moving forward despite fear. She wrote an essay for school about the night her car broke down and the mechanic who became her hero. Years passed, and the bond between Lila, Eli, and Hope only grew stronger. They celebrated birthdays and holidays together, shared triumphs and setbacks, and supported each other through every twist and turn. Eli became a grandfather figure to Hope, teaching her not just about cars, but about life, about forgiveness, about making amends, about finding joy in small moments. One spring, Hope was accepted into an engineering program at a prestigious university. Lila and Eli beamed with pride as they watched her walk across the stage at graduation. "You did it, kiddo," Eli whispered, his voice thick with emotion. Hope hugged him tightly. "I couldn't have done it without you." Hope's move to college was bittersweet. Lila helped her pack, tucking notes of encouragement into her bags. Eli tuned up Hope's old car, making sure it would carry her safely to her new life. On the morning of her departure, they stood together in the driveway, the Kansas wind tugging at their clothes. "Remember," Eli said, "if you ever break down, you call me first." Hope laughed, wiping away tears. "I promise." As Hope drove away, Lila and Eli stood side by side, watching until her car disappeared over the horizon. Lila squeezed Eli's hand. "Thank you for being her family," she said softly. Eli shook his head. "You both saved me, too." They walked back inside, hearts full of gratitude for the journey that had brought them together. Life settled into a gentle rhythm. Lila continued her work at the library, now a thriving community hub. Eli mentored a new generation of mechanics, sharing not just his skills, but his story. He spoke openly about loss and redemption, about the night he met Lila, and how it changed everything. People listened, and many found the courage to face their own regrets. Hope flourished at university. She called home often, sharing stories of new friends and late-night study sessions. She joined a club for women in engineering, inspired by her mother's resilience and Eli's quiet strength. When she struggled, she remembered the lessons she'd learned on the Kansas road. Ask for help, trust in kindness, and never give up. One autumn, Hope returned home for a visit. She brought with her a friend who had nowhere to go for Thanksgiving. Lila welcomed the girl with open arms, and Eli set an extra place at the table. As they shared a meal, laughter and warmth filled the house. Hope realized that family was not just about blood, but about the people who stood by you when you needed them most. That night, as the stars glittered above the prairie, Lila, Eli, and Hope sat on the porch, wrapped in blankets. They talked about the past, about the night Lila's car broke down, about the choices that had led them here. Sometimes, Lila said, the worst moments lead to the best things. Eli nodded, his eyes shining. We can't change what happened, but we can choose what we do next. As the years went on, their story became a quiet legend in the town. People spoke of the mechanic who helped a stranger, of the woman who built a new life from nothing, of the girl who chased her dreams. Their kindness rippled outward, touching lives they would never know. In the end, it wasn't just a broken car that changed everything. It was the courage to trust, the willingness to forgive, and the simple, stubborn hope that even in the middle of nowhere, you can find your way home.